Moving into another perspective, though, we're going to stay on the Valorant train, but we're going to take it from, us guys who are kind of in our rooms playing this game to a more competitive market, because in the news right now, as of 2 days ago, actually, Riot Games made some announcements regarding competitive Valorant. So a lot of people were really hyped up. They're like, what's competitive Valorant going to look like? The LCS is absolutely massive. It's probably the standard for competitive video gaming in a sense. But Riot announced that they're pretty much going to be hands off with their competitive scene as of right now. They unveiled their initial approach, which they said in the press release. They talked to like 100 different esports organizations to kind of get feedback and share their plans. But they pretty much said that they're not going to do anything right now. They gave community guidelines to third-party tournament organizers, so there can be Valorant tournaments very, very soon, or even after its launch. But Riot is not going to have an LCS structure or something like that to their competitive game just yet. And so we'll toss that around for discussion. We'll start with Marshall this time, because Marshall, you probably have the most competitive experience out of all of us.
Yeah, so obviously, I spent a lot of time thinking about competitive esports with my coaching position at Aquinas Esports. I am very interested in this. This is a very much hedged bet on Riot's part to not spend massive amounts of money working on a league and promising things that maybe they can or can't follow through with, a lot like what we've seen with the Call of Duty League, and Activision's handling of that. So to me, like a lot of things, Valorant is following in CSGO's footsteps, and this model is what I've sort of dubbed like the CSGO model, even though it's probably been done, and it has been done by many other people before. It's the hands-off approach, but we know that Riot is going to come in later. I don't say if this is a success, I say once this is a success, and will incorporate a lot of the things that the community has done and third-party organizations have done, and most likely will franchise like they have with the LCS, the LEC, and the LCK. LPL. I'm not going to go through all of them, but that's my take on this. They're waiting, which is smart.
And Ian, let's get your perspective on this. I know that you said that you weren't entirely familiar, but do you have any initial thoughts you want to before I hop on in?
Yeah, I just will come at it from the approach of the knowledge I have. A lot of the times I will just think of things in terms of how viral will this go, how big will the reception of this game be, what's the community hype like. Coming from a journalism background in terms of my education, I just like to think about how the masses are viewing this. And I think Riot has the time to kind of sit on deciding all of this, because they just have this huge hype wave they can ride right now. Why not just take the time and let the community get the hype, and they have time to spectate and consider what the best approach is for this game competitively. They don't really need to do anything right now. Shroud and Tim the Tatman were the grand finals of this big streamer competitive Valorant tournament that just happened. I believe grand finals were April 14th. Go back and watch those. They were super fun to watch. Shroud had an absolutely stacked Counter-Strike God team, and they won, of course. It was just fun watching CS gods play this game and be very good at it. I think they can just let the community make them money and hype them up right now. Why not? I think they take this time and then they decide, what are we doing competitively, big picture with this?
I entirely agree. And blending both of those perspectives, they have time to linger. I don't think Valorant's going to bust. I don't think the competitive scene is going to fizzle out anytime soon. Riot has proven that they have a strong competitive structure that works, and they will fuel resources into that to make it successful. So again, it's not a matter of if, but when. I like how Marshall phrased that. I also think that this period of time early on gives them some perspective into like what's it going to take to make a competitive Valorant scene good. I mean, they're looking for player base, which, Ian, as you kind of already said, these CSGO gods, could fit right in. If, say, for example, someone is coming out of retirement, there's a player base that maybe didn't fit into CSGO, maybe they didn't make a cut for a team and they want to try their hand at a different game that they're finding success with. I could see a lot of opportunities for fielding competitive players. But also, I mean, League of Legends has had this big issue, especially as of recent, now that they're on ESPN2, of being confusing to watch. I've seen tweets from people who have never been exposed to League tuning on ESPN2 to maybe watch a sports documentary, and they're like, what the hell is going on? Even with the commentators, I feel like I'm watching a car fire. I don't know what to look at. And I think that Valorant fixes that. I mean, it's easier to follow an FPS as opposed to a MOBA, but this kind of delay, this maybe, we're not sure if it's going to be months or years, that Riot's going to give it to third-party organizers before they put their hands on something, I think is a really smart move, because it gives them time to get their ducks in a row, as this game is still very much in its infancy.
Yeah, and some of the backlash that I've seen from people in the esports community is that Riot is really just taking advantage of the resources and the work of these third-party event organizers. And to that, I will say yes, and I will also say no, because one of the things you have to look at too is, I called this the CSGO model because it's most easily compared to that, but there's a lot of issues in the CSGO model. I mean, there are teams that a year and a half out after winning tournaments are still not paid, right? And if we're being honest with ourselves, there is not an LCS team that has not been paid for winning, right? So we cannot just look at this from the standpoint of, I don't know, like almost like a 2000s esports, right, where everything is run by and for the community. It's just not like that anymore, and that's not a bad thing that I'm saying. I'm just saying it in the sense that their revenue streams are a real thing. Making sure that people get paid is a real thing, and stability in these franchise leagues are not bad. And while I don't agree with everything that like all the franchise leagues do, named like OWL and CDL, like I'm not a huge fan of like the hometown team thing. I do like the stability that these franchises offer. So,
and to touch on that too, you see stability being a really high point, like you noted, but we're in a position right now where esports in general is going through so much change. I mean, people are still trying to figure out what structures or models work best. And Riot has one that works as of right now, but who says another model won't work better, at least for this specific game? So I think that it's smart on Riot's end to, hold their cards a little close to their chest, at least in this aspect. I'm glad that they've given tools to the community so that they can, still see a satisfied player base, because people want to see this game played competitively. They've given, streamers just a little taste, and now the community is really taking well to it. So at least there's something to hold people off, but I think that it's going to be a while until we see a Riot sanctioned event, but I also think that's for good reason. Ian, do you have any closing thoughts you want to share on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that this game has an exciting future in front of itself. And the one thing that is absolutely comforting to Riot, I'm sure, is the one thing that will absolutely always confirm that you have somebody watching your thing is monetary resources. They have the money. They have the money to breathe life into this game if it takes a hit. If it takes something, they have the resources. And it seems like the team, I just want to say, playing this game, it feels awesome. And outside of it being this huge, big, almost heartless corporation that is throwing money at Riot, at the end of the day, the people making the games are the developers. And I think those people have heart and brains. And I think they've made an awesome game. Riot, as long as they just keep having money thrown into Valorant, they can make it work for a while, and I believe that sincerely. So that's what I have to say.
Marshall, I'll give it to you for some final thoughts before we move on.
It's worth saying that if third-party people are frustrated with not knowing that it will eventually be taken away from them, more than likely, it's worth even saying that it's crazy that a company allows you to profit off of their IP almost at all. So that in itself should be taken with a grain of salt.